for success. Welcome to our podcast about entrepreneurship, about growing, about thriving as entrepreneurs. Today, I've got my guest, Taylor Jacobson. I've met Taylor some 14 years ago at an event. And over the years, I've been a client of a platform that he uses, that he created, called FocusMate. So Taylor is the founder and CEO of FocusMate, the virtual co-working body doubling community, helping people beat procrastination and do their best work through live accountability and body doubling. FocusMate has hosted over 12 million sessions, probably even more than that, worldwide, helping people use structure, human connection, and focused work blocks to follow through to what matters. Taylor's work is at the intersection of productivity, nervous system safety, regulation, community, and the future of work. So I'm excited about this podcast, especially because I'm a client of Taylor's. I use Taylor's service. I use FocusMate every day, almost every day. Today, I got to connect with somebody in the Ukraine. And sometimes these sessions go beyond just a video session. We actually talk and interact and check in on what's happening there in the world. It's been so useful to really be able to connect with other humans around the world, realizing that we're all the same. We all have the same challenges. We have different perspectives, different lives, different things that fuel us. Taylor, enough about that. So how are you today? What part of the world are you in?
Hey, Joseph. Great to be here. And I feel like you were on a roll there. I'm like, I can just hold space while you rock about how awesome my business is. I'm in Madrid, Spain, and really happy to be here.
Awesome. When we first connected years ago, you were in New York. I understand you've traveled quite a bit too over the years. And one of the benefits of running a virtual team. So where do most people get procrastination wrong? Like, what are they missing around that? I'm curious.
I was always taught that procrastination was like a disciplined willpower thing or like a mental condition. Like you're a procrastinator. For me, the connotation is it's like a mental disorder, basically. And over the course of my journey with this business, and really more so my journey with my own procrastination, my own broader health issues, I've been able to learn a lot about the nervous system. And one of the coolest things that I learned through that process is basically the nervous system and the degree of safety we feel at any moment in time is basically the core thing that modulates our ability to focus. Which has a huge implication that procrastination is not a mental problem. Certainly we experience a lot of annoying thoughts and this sort of thing while we're procrastinating, but where it comes from is really generally what I would say a chronic stress state, and specifically a nervous system that's geared up into fight or flight or freeze.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think the thing that a lot of people miss is that even though we live in a world where you're basically safe all the time, and I'm not being reductionist about that, and I know there's lots of dangers in modern society, but even when you rationally know that you're safe, your body may not perceive safety. And so many of us, due to a childhood environment or a traumatic experience or these sort of things, have bodies, have nervous systems that are geared up all the time in fight, flight, or freeze. And those are generally the people that have an ADHD diagnosis or consider themselves procrastinators.
Yeah, very, very, very well said. I connect with that a lot. And there's so much science in recent years too, the vagus nerve and connecting the body, the sympathetic system in the body, kind of realigning that. So you suggested this connection between productivity, focus, and the nervous system we just talked about. So what is average high performer? Like most entrepreneurs tend to be high performers and want to be high performers, not understand about their own body when they sit down to work. And maybe how does FocusMate play into that too? I have my ideas about that.
Go for it. Yeah, let's riff. I mean, probably the biggest like misconception that, let's say, ambitious people have is that we need to, there's like a certain energy of forcing ourselves to do hard things. That is, on the one hand, is totally true. On the other hand, we can do it in a way that generates a lot of intensity in the body. And I am a recovering, like, hyper self-discipline person who was like, my whole life was, I was doing some diet, I was doing some physical challenge, I was um, pushing myself. And at least in my case, and I think for many people in American culture especially, that becomes this constantly accumulating stress, tension, rigidity, and, you know, like they say, rigidity is fragility.
Yeah.
Interesting. Right. Yeah. A tree is strong because it bends. And that's how our bodies are also, right? Like a healthy body with healthy fascia is very hydrated and supple, let's say. So living a lifestyle and having a mentality around everything we do that's like pushing ourselves, forcing ourselves, like better, faster, harder. Some of these things, unfortunately, are like falling out of popular culture finally.
Or even hustle culture too.
Hustle culture, 100%. You know, being an entrepreneur means, you know, and you have like brilliant influencers out there like Alex Hormozy who are teaching a lot of good lessons and are, I think, in some ways rightfully saying, okay, if you want to succeed, you have to X, Y, and Z. But the glamorizing of that is, I think, where we really hurt ourselves. And like, I have no value judgment of if somebody feels that what's necessary to get their business off the ground or to, you know, like you talk about, you know, generational impact. If you want to have your children have a different situation than you, and you want to sacrifice your well-being in order for that to happen, fine. And let's not glamorize it, because I think that's where a lot of this pushing ourselves unnecessarily comes from. So anyway, this is a long way of saying, I think there's a misunderstanding that high performance is pushing, forcing, and, you know, what the nature of the human is much more that safety and softness is actually much more conducive of long-term success.
For me, it's adaptability, being malleable, being not as like stuck, right? That whole energy about things is very useful. We even encourage our clients to play more, take more time off.
100%.
And even see their work as play. That's been a game changer for me, understanding that over the years. It's all a game, it's all play. The more we stress out of it, for me, I have kids, so I don't want them to model that behavior where they're pushing and pushing each day. And my wife has high standards with how she shows up. So we balance that out with her world and my world, and we find an intersection that you can play, you can enjoy this journey, you know, you can relax, you can get enough rest if need be to kind of be able to show up, because it's all play, it's all a game, it's all a dance if we see it as being a dance or a game. And that's just something we embrace in our community success circle. So I love that. I really align with that. So how does FocusMate play into this idea of body doubling, connecting with another individual who's not around the world, who's human, who's maybe they're also a bit extrinsically motivated, you know, as an author talks about that idea of intrinsically versus extrinsically motivated. How does FocusMate come to play, having a body double there?
Yeah. So just brief sidebar for our listeners. What is FocusMate? FocusMate is a global community of people that many of them work alone, work from home, and struggle with productivity. And they use our platform to book video calls with each other. And the whole purpose of the video calls is just to keep each other company and hold each other accountable while they're each working on their own stuff. And the calls begin by just you meet your partner and you ask each other what you're going to work on. And that's probably no more than a minute. You can tell me if I'm wrong in your experience. And then you're getting down to work right away. You can both see each other on the video camera, but you're not interacting at that point. You're just doing whatever you committed to doing. So, if Joseph and I, if we're partners, maybe you're preparing for your next podcast interview and I'm answering my email inbox. At the end of the video call, a bell goes off. We come back together. I say, "Hey, Joseph, how'd it go?" "Oh, I got about halfway done preparing." How did I do? Okay, I answered, a bunch of emails. Great. That's FocusMate in a nutshell. So your question is, how does all this nervous system stuff connect to FocusMate? The short answer is co-regulation. So there's this phrase, nervous system regulation is how we manage the state that we're in. And probably the most powerful way to regulate the human nervous system is through the safe company of other people, animals, other safe people. And there's other layers of safety that are introduced as well. So there's a familiarity and ritual around FocusMate that you know exactly what to expect. If you're experienced in FocusMate like you are, even the kind of imaginative confidence that you hold of knowing that, I've been screwing around for the last 20 minutes, 6 hours, whatever. And I'm finally going to get down to work, and I know it because I'm about to have a FocusMate session. Even that kind of imaginative power generates some safety in the body. And so you can literally, in a span of a minute, your nervous system state can change from before a FocusMate, when you're in fight, flight, freeze, you're hiding in your bed, you're scurrying around your apartment, cleaning, or just harebrained kind of classic procrastination stuff, to I feel calm, I feel safe, I feel focused. So for me, that's kind of the huge lever that's going on with FocusMate.
It is a huge lever. It really is. So my mornings, I'm at 700 and some sessions this morning, right? And I start most of my days with a FocusMate session. I'm either working my Sign coach in Portugal, separate, or I'm working a FocusMate session. Sometimes after my Sign coach session, I'll have a FocusMate session. One thing I do is for the 50-minute session, I'll tell my FocusMate partner I'm going to go outside and get some sunlight in my eyes, or I'm going to go for a quick bike ride to get some sunlight movement in my body.
That's awesome.
I'll be back in 10 minutes. So I'll do that, and they're cool with it. Or I might be out in the yard pulling out weeds. Just the sunlight, getting my day started, is useful, because otherwise I'm just reacting to things. I have 2 kids who wake up, they're getting their day started. I've got a team overseas. So that helps me tremendously at 5:30 a.m. or whenever I do it, to be able to do that. And then afterwards, I'll set 3 or 4 tasks. My task today was actually put together questions to kind of ask you, which I sent to you earlier. That's part of one of my tasks this morning. And mind you, like, I've got background, I've got multiple engineering degrees, technology. I've been doing accountability for many, many years with Success Circles. We have a very different process where we connect people around the world together who are high-level entrepreneurs, using a bit of a Socratic approach toward challenging each other to rise up each day. That's our process. It's one-on-one. But what you do is very unique. During COVID itself, like back in 2020, I saw tremendous value in this, because I saw one of the reasons why I started Success Circles many years ago is I saw entrepreneurs faced with isolation take their lives. That caused me to, let me build something where they can get in conversation. During COVID, there was a lot of stress happening because people were isolated, specifically entrepreneurs, but anyone and everyone. And giving that person a safe way of connecting with another human, right? Even virtually, right? No need to wear masks and so forth. I just thought it was very useful, even to the point that my team and I, we built a whole platform where we could direct people to FocusMate. We call it Momentum Mate. The site's still up. We even built a community around it. It's been fun, been very, very useful. And to your point, there is nervous system regulation. One of the things I studied years ago was co-counseling, this idea of having conversations back and forth, validating, acknowledging, And that is one of the things I went into Success Circles initially. And then we added this whole other element of rising up, being better, executing, using the huddle as a challenging ground to really inspire people to take on their day, the game, by executing at a high level, right? FocusMate has given that to me partly because I'm able to start my day having somebody there where I get to do the most difficult thing I'm going to avoid.
Yeah, there's you're also pointing at this sort of feeling of we're all in this together, right? You talked about isolation and obviously some like severely negative feelings that can come with that and other life challenges, and having also been to some dark places. That's also my experience. Is there may be nothing quite as powerful as just having somebody kind of get down into the trench with you and really feel like gotten and together wherever you're at. And it's like suddenly whatever feeling you were feeling just feels a bit lighter.
Yes.
So I'm sure that is 100% true of your Success Circles. And it's also really true of FocusMate, where it's like, whatever, shitty story you're telling yourself about what you're not getting your stuff done and, you're lazy and you're wasting the day. And like, these are at least some things that I'm familiar with saying to myself. As soon as you have another human being sitting there with you, it just totally, it's like totally a new conversation. That's just like, let's do this, guys. And it might not be so jovial, but like, it can get there pretty quickly.
Yes.
It can approach like a totally opposite vibe. So.
And you realize we're the same. Like we're all dealing with similar issues, challenges. Some FocusMate has several communities you can tap into, like based on what you're focusing on, what you're dealing with. Could be around health, workouts. Could be somehow I've got connected with the medical community. It's like MedMate might be what it's called, perhaps. My wife's a physician. She's an endocrinology chief in Brooklyn, New York. And she's worked really hard to do what she's done. But I'm often paired with people who are medical students, right? And they're sharing the screen as a means to stay accountable, so they can do flashcards, right? So they can get really good at this practice, so they can become exceptional doctors. I've been paired with people who are CEOs of companies that are doing 8-9 figures a year, right? Fascinating. Or they're traveling the world, and this is like they've got 3,000-4,000 sessions already in FocusMate. And my thought in the moment is like, you're building a business that's doing 9 figures a year, and you still need this, and it brings validity to this idea that isolation is a dream destroyer, it's a dream killer. Very, very useful, and I didn't really connect the whole idea of emotional regulation until this conversation. It makes a lot of sense. It's one of the reasons, the vagus nerve talks about the idea of doing certain exercises, movements, humming, but actually human contact would probably be as valuable as that, especially another human who's also kind of in the trenches, building, growing, wanting to be better. A real human, not some sort of AI bot in the background. We'll talk about AI soon because that's also a passion of mine, kind of balancing technology, AI with being better. We'll talk about that soon too. What would you add to that, what I just said, if anything?
Well said. No, I think that's perfect.
Awesome. So a lot of accountability systems become pressure, guilt, or performance theater. How do you create accountability that feels supportive instead of punitive? So prior to this conversation, before we started recording, I started sharing how we frame accountability in Success Circles. We frame accountability as putting the things important to you in front of you and minimizing all the friction points around you. So the thing that's important to you, you're working on, because all the other distractions are pulled away, right? We live in a world of a lot of noise too. Really aware of that, given where things are, social media, AI, and more. So how would you frame accountability in the context of body doubling and FocusMate?
Yeah. So number one, you pointed at what I experience as the kind of cultural relationship to accountability is as a punitive thing. Accountability means if you don't do it, you get punished in some way. There's a consequence.
Mm.
And I don't think that's what accountability means. And in my experience, it's also not the most effective form of or version of accountability. So in FocusMate specifically, accountability means you tell somebody what your plan is, and then later you're going to tell them how it went. And you can lie. Like there's nobody that's, making you tell the truth about whether you did it or not. But it turns out that really doesn't matter. And in fact, the gentleness of the context and the culture that we have at FocusMate, I think creates an opening for our innate desire to be awesome and to make good use of our lives, right? And being tribal animals, we already have such a strong drive to be a good tribe member, so we don't get kicked out and die alone in wintertime or something. So, yeah, I think accountability is basically exactly what you said. It's just letting something be visible. The clearer, the better. I think effective prioritization is a version of making things visible. So, like if you're looking at a list with 10 or 20 things on it, you actually can't. Like, you could kind of blur your eyes and like be looking at the whole list, but you can't read 20 things at once, nor can you do 20 things at once. So there's a certain invisibility to a list that is not prioritized or a task that is not specifically chosen. So FocusMate also helps with that, where I'm not going to sit here and make you listen to a 20 item to-do list, because both of us know I'm not going to get through it in a 1 hour session, and you don't have time for that. So there's like this, with FocusMate, you kind of figure out like, oh, okay, this is an hour. I'm going to tell Joseph 2 things, right? And suddenly those 2 things are also made visible.
Yeah. I like that too with my focus session. There's a text box there. So you go back and forth with text. Basically, what I do is have individual lines for each thing I'm doing, the 3 things I'm doing. And then you can put a smiley face. You can kind of acknowledge, like, if you did those things as those things inspired. And at the end of the session, it's cool as you both celebrate you did those things. It's kind of seen on screen, but you're also verbally acknowledging it at the end. Well, I got this done. I had this distraction. This thing popped up. That's useful.
So I guess you don't have the task manager yet. We released the task manager in beta, but only to a few hundred
Not yet.
people.
So not yet. I'm excited about that.
The visibility and clarity will get an upgrade shortly with the task manager.
That makes sense. And I love how you're constantly evolving, improving the platform where things were initially many years ago. I got exposed to this many years ago. It's very cool. Just the optimizations that go into it. It takes a lot of work, and I'm sure there's a lot of pride in ensuring that people use it and have great outcomes out of it and make progress out of it. Anything else you want to talk about as far as the design or future designs around the platform that you're excited about?
Sure. Yeah, like I said, Task Manager is in beta at this point. So, just helping you get more organized and kind of marry your planning to your doing, if you will. We've also had just a bazillion requests for group FocusMate sessions. And that is approaching the finish line as well. So group sessions can be, a small group. It could be just 3 people. It could be bigger groups. I think, we're limiting it to up to 8 people initially. But, creates a little bit more of a team camaraderie.
I love it.
environments. So, people have different preferences or different moods. It's another option, and I'll leave the rest to mystery. But yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff coming up.
One of the ideas we play with in our community is that we rise to the quality of expectations of our peer group. So when one person's paired up with someone in success circles, and then 2 months later they paired up with that same person again, there's often this expectation that they'll be the same person or be better, right? And so it's fun to kind of engage in that in group dynamics when you have people who are looking to get better, being better entrepreneurs, leaders, and being a community of people also striving to be better too. And then each time they meet, we rise up. Like we just show up. We're like, how do we level up even furthermore in our not just behavior, but also in the areas of life that are important to us, health, relationship, much more. It's very, very fascinating. There's a lot of interesting thing that goes into the idea of thought exchange and how that happens when people engage in conversations, communication.
Yeah, it's like one of the ultimate life hacks because what you and I consider normal is just a function of what we're surrounded by, like what the people around us are saying and doing. So, what you're doing of putting people together and sort of consciously establishing the culture where we say, in this community, in this space, here's what we believe. And then you just repeat it to each other and on the wall and in the app and, and everywhere. And these are the things that it's like we kind of invisibly just become a different person because we're swimming in that water. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of that.
Especially their biases that we have. It's been fun to connect with somebody around the world. Whether it's success circles or even Focus Mate. My buddy in Focus Mate today was in Ukraine, right? And Ukraine's going through conflict and so forth. But we get to have perspective of things that the person's dealing with, even if it's for those 2 minutes of conversation early on, like, how are you doing? How's your day going? You get to connect with another human who's dealing with crisis issues. And I personally find, I love the idea of releasing judgment and embracing humanity, right? And recognizing that we're all on this journey together. The more we can release that judgment on things, I have clients in Israel and Pakistan, we can progress together. We're all in our community, we're entrepreneurs, or we can make progress together because it's less about putting someone in the box. So that's a whole other conversation too around this. It's something I've come to appreciate because I really do believe that if you're running a business, potentially there's an option to running a business on a global level, like you're doing here, right? And to be able to see that sometimes takes travel, to be able to go somewhere else. We're going to go to Portugal next month. It's a huge expat community. We have clients in Colombia. It's a huge Colombia community out there. So what has travel taught you? So I know you've traveled quite a bit. I've followed your journey a little bit here and there. South America, you were in New York many years ago. You're in Spain now. What has travel taught you about community and people? I'm curious.
Well, I think what you were just sharing is actually a pretty good connection point to that because, not to make it super heavy when we're talking about travel, which has a more fun connotation, but we do live in the social media era of ultra polarization. And so whether it's through success circles or Focus Mate or travel, when you have the more intimate and human of a connection you have with an individual, the harder it is to kind of hide out in some abstract narrative about what's going on in the politics in my country or in this global conflict or so on and so forth. So, whether I've lived abroad a number of times, I've traveled a bit. I think, you can't paint a straight line necessarily, but you do get to this point where, I spent some time in Israel and talking to Israeli soldiers, Palestinian soldiers. You get to this point where you realize that nothing is as simple as the version of the story that's being peddled to you, sometimes by your friend. So it's made me a lot slower to think that I know anything about something, and kind of oriented me towards trying to experience things directly as much as possible, especially if I'm going to have any opinion about a matter. So there's a certain humility that comes from travel. I also, I lived in India for some time.
What part?
Pune and Mumbai.
Okay. My family's in Kerala, way down south.
I've been to Kerala. My mom came to visit, and we went to Kerala. It's a Jewish community is bigger down there, and she was excited about that. But, as a young American kid, I thought, arranged marriage is backwards, and that's just a thing that these weird people on the other side of the world do. And then suddenly I had friends that were having arranged marriages, and I was more or less involved in some of the process that they were going through of meeting their spouses to be. And it just strips you away of this notion that better, or something, and that's kind of a relief. Also, it's a lot easier to move through the world just being curious instead of trying to have answers.
Yeah. Someone I'm having a podcast soon. A lesson I learned from this person years ago is that we often occupy, at least I did, I occupy a lot of my inner dialogue trying to look good or avoid looking bad, right? Sometimes there's some bit of judgment, judging ourselves, judging others. And when you can release that, when I release that, there's a lot more flow. There's a lot more opportunity to experience people, life, to be productive, doing the things that matter. And it's profound. And people have that experience through doing different things, doing programs, events, ayahuascas, you name it. And I know you do men's work too. And maybe the way you frame men's work, I'd be curious about what that is. For me, it's about kind of deepening presence, focus, intention, and potentially being in a community, like a mastermind of people where people are striving to be better, understand each other, be better dads, husbands, spouses, leaders. How is that world for you? I know sometimes you mentioned before it intersects with pickleball and kind of outdoor stuff. Talk to me about that.
Well, I've forced it to intersect with pickleball out of a desire to combine my two favorite things in life. But men's work. I read an article on Medium maybe 15 years ago, and there's just a guy sharing about his men's group. It's called the Elephants. And at the time, I was like a 28-year-old solopreneur in New York City. I was spending down my savings to pay my rent, and I was lonely, and I was exhausted, and I was so stressed out of my mind. And I read this article, and one of the things it talks about is the Jim Rohn's thing of you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and unpacks that effect a little bit. And I just thought, all right, maybe this is a tool that can help me stay sane and claw my way out of this tough spot. And I made a list of all the guys in the city that weren't necessarily friends of mine, but guys that I thought I would like to become more like this person. These are people I respect and admire. And one by one, I reached out to them and I pitched them on this idea of let's get together once a month, create a really confidential, safe environment to talk about the real shit in our lives and try to help each other through it. And I think I reached out to 7 guys and 6 of them said yes. And for me, that blew my mind because, again, maybe 2 of them were my friends and a few of them I had met at different stuff and maybe you had hung out a couple times and I was like, these guys are amazing. These guys are above me. And but it turned out that was a really resonant opportunity for, for a bunch of people that I was interested in spending time with. So we created this group, and that became my first men's group. And that changed my life. It kind of this, one drop at a time in the bucket. It became the place where I learned that the things that I'm struggling with, I don't need to be ashamed of. I don't need to hold all this shame as this immensely heavy burden on top of our struggling. That I could bring these things that I was like, oh my God, can I even say this? I'm such a POS. And I would share them, and these guys would be like, great, let's figure it out. But they didn't have anything about it. There was no judgment. It just was like, let's solve the problem. And so it was such a positive, loving culture that emerged. And it also really shifted my perception of myself as well, because these guys that I initially held as above me were so eager to come into something that I had created, and were so eager to hear my thoughts on their challenges. And so it also became a place where I could kind of ease into more of a perception of myself as a leader, which was a huge, growth opportunity at that stage of my life. And at this point, I've either been invited to or been part of probably 10 different men's groups, done dozens of retreats as well, which are kind of one-off manifestations of that same structure. And it's proven to be a really durable and kind of eternally relevant structure for whatever is your growth edge at this point in time. If you can find a group of people, in my case, men, who are really committed to speaking the truth and hearing the truth about themselves, about others, and doing so in a loving way. Based on that alone, that intention alone, that commitment, you can create massive transformation, and that it's continued to be that for me.
Absolutely.
The pickleball piece, pickleball is just like, we talked about play a lot before we started recording. I think play is like one of the most important parts of life. Yes, for intrinsic value, and also because I think it kind of connects us more to our soul or our spirit or kind of our true nature. Kind of breaks through the cloud of like bullshit in our heads and conditioning and all of this. So I love sports. I think sports are like such also a great way to like see our patterns like playing themselves out on the court of like, oh my God, I have such a bad attitude about this, or like whatever the thing is. So yeah, one of my kind of like light bulb projects of 2026 was like, I want to do retreats that are half pickleball, half men's work. That just sounds like the most fun way to spend, a 3-day weekend. So yeah, there's no,
it's all made up, right? We're designing it life by design, right? That whole idea. And
100%.
And if you have the capability to bring people together yourself, people come to you, why not? It's great. Even what I built with Successor was all made up. It's an idea that I had. My sister, she's a single mom. She's part of a women's group for maybe 20 years, and they've encouraged her and supported her. And I think it's very valuable that women have their own women's group and have their men's group, trust a group of people that they can connect with, whether it's for a few months, a few years. Extraordinary things can come out of it. For me personally, it's been life-changing for me. It really has been. I wouldn't be married if it weren't for the people I was around years ago who challenged me to be better, to be on my edge, to face my own shadow, like all those things that we can be embarrassed about. That I was embarrassed about for myself. And progress is kind of about recognizing those friction points, being able to communicate those friction points, those things that we deal with, and in a safe way, like FocusMate provides that too, initially and at the end. But verbalizing it is a very valuable thing. to people who can trust. That's why I even think 12-step programs work too, for that matter. Going back to that whole model. Really, really profound, really great. I'm glad you shared that. I'm glad you're also integrating play into that too. I could talk about that. I still go to events once in a while. 2 weeks ago, we were 20 men outdoors, giant balls, and we're playing goals, and we had teams, and just so much fun, so much humor. Then afterwards, we opened up. We sat down, we shared what we're dealing with. We journaled for a bit. We talked about our intentions for the year, things in that way. And it was profound, simply profound. It's something, there's a lot of research in the body-mind connection and how that all interweaves together, right? And there's more evidence in this now than there was ever years ago, and how traumas can get captured in the body. And by being able to do that in a safe way, be able to connect with another human, ideally in person, but also sometimes virtually using FocusMate, it can be very profound what can happen. I want to also add to our audience too, there's a book by Cal Newport called Deep Work. I think it's of value to talk about this idea that if you put 3 hours a day toward the thing that's important to you, and you do the consistent actions around that each day, eventually you'll hit your outcome, whether it's building a business, growing as a person, your health. And FocusMate, for me and for a lot of my clients, has been very useful for that, getting those hours in a way that's safe, that's engaging, that's supportive, where there's some aspect of, did you do it at the end of it? That's been very useful.
Yeah, 100%. I think for a lot of us, myself included, it's like beating back the tide of kind of administrative pileup of like, I gotta make this doctor's appointment, I gotta prepare the kids' lunch, and I gotta like all this, these little tiny things that can easily consume your whole day. And I think just understanding that like exceptional results, you don't have to be an exceptional person to get exceptional results. You just have to be consistent. That's been one of my life's biggest lessons, is kind of breaking down this idea that I have to be, you don't have to be, I don't know, it's hard to pick anybody that's not canceled, but that you have to be somehow extraordinary to do something special with your life. And Cal Newport kind of points out this thing that's like, no, you don't. You just need to make 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
And just make sure those 3 hours are not totally chaotic, harebrained, whatever. And FocusMate for me was the way that I actually made that happen, because the commitment to an appointment with another person just felt a lot more concrete to me. And like, okay, I can book 3 FocusMates every day, or, whatever you can, just move the needle a little bit towards more deep work, and then you get more consistency and more results.
Magic happens. Yeah. Compound effect. Progress happens. So AI question. So I'm often asking people, especially people in the space of technology. So as AI gives us more leverage, do you think, and I know you answered this already, but I'd like to verbalize it. Do you think human accountability becomes less important or more important?
I don't think the human animal is ever going to suddenly not be a mammal or a tribal creature. So for me, it feels like they're almost unrelated in a way. Like AI is this like insane vector of, leverage using technology. Cool. And then on the other hand, we're an animal, and here animals need sunlight and water and nutrients and contact and, connection and play, and you know what I mean? So I guess that's my non-answer answer is like, I don't know, but both of those things seem very true to me.
Yeah. And I think human contact will be of more value in the future, especially as people might get so used to technology. Human connections really value. I met with Gary Vee last year, and we were talking about that and how the businesses in the future that will thrive are the ones that bring human capital together, people together.
100%. I think communities that's the hottest space of this moment.
If you can go back in time and talk to the 18 or 21-year-old version of yourself? Give that person advice, or even give somebody now 18, 21 coming out of school, looking to design a life. What's the piece of advice you'd give that version of yourself or someone now?
Something like commit to figuring out what your unique gifts are. And then to cultivating skillfulness in a way that uses those to contribute to others. Because the intersection of those two things, like our unique gifts are the things that really light us up and give us energy, and the skills that are required to contribute value to others using those. To me, that's kind of your source of personal well-being. Like I think there's an innate internal metric of like, am I doing me? And then, like material world stability, like we need to be able to contribute value to other people if we want to pay our living expenses. So like, how do you live a soulful, aligned life, and how do you also make it in the real world? You need skills. And I happen to think that the most impactful, sustainable way to deliver value is also through the center of whatever is, your greatest gift or gifts.
Amen. Beautiful. Completely aligned. We're all wired with unique skills and gifts, and it's useful to work on those things and be stellar at those things too, especially those things also create impact in the world, add value to the world. And you certainly are somebody who's adding a lot of value in the world, especially with FocusMate. I'm sure you have other ventures too, projects you're up to too. But FocusMate has impacted 12 million conversations, right? 12 million sessions. That's a lot, but probably more than that, right? Based on
we need to do a recount, but thanks, Joseph.
Yeah, so I believe every conversation can make a difference. This is one of those conversations, and every FocusMate session is a conversation. To our audience out there, to my clients in Success Circles, check out FocusMate. It's a simple concept. You'd be surprised who's in front of you at any point, and that person could cause you to be a better version of yourself. That's how we work in Success Circles. The model of FocusMate's simpler. It's fun. It's how I start most of my weekdays. So check it out. Taylor, this has been profound. Thank you for the opportunity here. For our audience, tap into the recording. We're gonna pull out some of the bite-sized nuggets out of it into a separate podcast called Momentum Tips, momentumtips.com. You can find this episode on all our channels, Spotify, on Amazon, and YouTube. Tap into this. All of this, once again, is at rulesforsuccess.com. Tap into our podcast, like our podcast. We're looking to keep leveling up with other guests like Taylor in the near future. Thanks so much.